Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual retirement seminar. I'm Josh Black, your APFA National Secretary and moderator for today's session. With me, we have some very knowledgeable retirement specialists with us to help you navigate the large thing that is retirement and all the steps that come along with it. Before we get started, I'm going to show you guys the retirement page on the APFA website, which is a great resource to find information about retirement in addition to this town hall today. Okay, so on apfa.org, under resources, we have a page titled Retirement, and if you click on that, the first thing I'll point out is the good slide packet. If you click on this, the retirement specialists today are going to mention quite a few times the retirement packet. This is where you'll find that. If you want us to mail you a printed copy, you can also reach out to us at retirement@apfa.org or by calling Kim at the phone number listed on here. A lot of this information on here, we've got previous town halls that you can go back and watch, which, by the way, after this town hall is over, it is recorded. It'll be sent out via hotline and posted on the website as well. And just a lot of other general, really good information to help you along the way. The other thing I'm going to plug before I hand it over is the strike authorization vote. We are gearing up for a strike authorization vote. It will open this Friday, and it'll be open for about 31 days. So to find out more information about the strike authorization vote, go to apfa.org/strike, or you can click the strike authorization button on our homepage. This is the page that you'll use to vote for strike authorization. And we've got a lot of great information on this page, including a strike authorization vote booklet and various videos from the negotiating committee and some FAQs. If you have any trouble logging in when you vote, please reach out to our strike support center. It's at 806-4STRIKE, or you can email strike@apfa.org. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Kim and Patrick.
Thank you, Josh. All right, welcome to the July 25th, 2023 APFA Retirement Town Hall Seminar.
Good morning, everybody, or
afternoon already. Yeah,
Lordy. In the morning. Feels like morning to me.
All right, perfect. And who are we? Well, this is Kim Coates-Stuck. She's the National Retirement Specialist, and I'm Patrick Hancock, the APFA Retirement Specialist Emeritus. I have no idea who those people are or where those pictures came from, but we also want to give a shout out to Ron Harris. He had the job between Kim and I, and he is responsible for an awful lot of what you see in this presentation. And hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron, we miss you.
We do. That was he and I on a layover in London. He may have been a little overserved at that point, but I promise not to tell too many stories. So that's who we are. Who we are not. We are not the company. This is a union meeting. And I have been a union rep for way too many years, and I've developed a rather healthy cynicism about my management of my employer. So if I say things about management that somehow offend you, no. So we're not the company. We're also not your financial advisors. We're not your attorneys. We're not your Medicare advisors. We're not your Social Security advisors. But you may find that you need one or more of those people. And that's not us. And you're going to hear us say about 5 times during the course of this presentation that you really should get a financial advisor. Of all of those helpers listed there, financial advisors is probably the most important one to do. Because even though retirement has a lot of moving pieces, a lot of it is about money. And so we really recommend that you talk to financial advisors. So that's who we are. Who are you? Hey, we are the APFA, and as of February, we had 24,764 members. Of that 24,000, let's call it 25. How many do you think are over the age of 80? 80. You're wrong. There are 20 people over the age of 80. And continue on down. We've got 144 in the next bucket. The next bucket, there's 542, 70 to 74. There's 1,700 between the ages of 65 and 69. There are 4,000 between the ages of 50 and 64. There are 5,000 between the ages of 55 and 59. Well, if you add that up, it's 11,500 are over the age of 55, which means they are eligible to retire today. That's a fairly substantial percentage of the whole membership. And that's why, if it seems like the APFA spends a lot of time, energy, and resources to make sure that people know about retirement options and know what they have, that the union fought hard to win for them, that's why, because it's really important to a lot of our members. And rounding out the rest of that, looking at wherever people are, you get down into the like 30, 35, 25, we've got 2,600, and then you get down into the what I call the really young, cute, and pretty group. It's only 681, and actually that number's gone up since February because we've had a couple of really big classes come through APFA headquarters. So
Quite a few.
Quite a few. So the number's been going on and on. Kim, what can you tell us about housekeeping?
Okay, so general housekeeping. The good slide handout follows our presentation. So if you have a copy or you want to download a copy, you don't have to take as many notes. It's all in that handout. If you have questions, please submit them via chat. We're happy to answer any questions, and we will pause for certain questions throughout the presentation and at the end as well. Checklist. In the back of our good slide handout, the APFA retirement packet, there are some very useful checklists. They tell you what you need to know if you're planning to retire in 1 month, in 3 months, and 6 months. And it's great information to have because people go, where do I start? Where do I start? And these checklists will give you a good idea. Also, there's a contact list with all the benefits contacts at the company, fidelities. If you have a pension, where you go to get that information, all the kinds of contacts you're going to need. And you want to take that with you after your retirement so you know how to get in touch with folks if you need to after retirement. And it also includes the most important contact of all, retirement@apfa.org. That's how you can reach us to send any questions, and we'll be happy to answer them. So let's talk about retirement and what it really means. Basically, retirement is composed of 3 components. You have your medical benefits, your retirement benefits, such as a pension, perhaps, if that's still around, and your pension, 401k, your retirement benefits, I screwed up. It's basically your past privileges and things like that. And your pension 401k benefits, which are the monetary, your income benefits for retirement. We switched that around to 401k pension because these days everyone has a 401k. And there are less and less people that actually still have a pension, unfortunately. And the medical benefits, we like to refer to that as the incredible shrinking basket because it's been very much impacted by the various bankruptcies, and the company offers very little in terms of medical benefits. That's why you see a lot of people waiting around until they're eligible for Medicare before they retire. So there's some important questions you need to ask yourself if you're considering retirement. They are, what do you need to retire? What do you get in retirement? What about income? That's very crucial. And what else do I need to research? So first of all, we're going to talk about what you need to retire. You need to be eligible. You need money. And you need to be ready. That's key because you may be all set in terms of income, your eligibility. For years, you've been eligible for the 65-point plan, but you're just not ready to leave the job. And that's a key element. So in order to retire in terms of eligibility, you must have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire. And your age and your company seniority must equal 65 points or more. That is what the company refers to as the 65-point plan. All right, Patrick, money. Let's talk about money.
All right. Hey, when you're doing some long-range planning, particularly for parents, there's two major questions you have to answer. The first is, how much do I need to have saved on the day I retire to last me the rest of my life? The goal. That's actually one of the most common questions we get. What's the magic number? Well, it's different for everyone because all of us have different spending habits. All of us have different income options. Some are married, some are not. Some are married to people that act like they're not, don't have income. So that's the number. What do I need to have? And once you've got that goal that's unique to you, once you have that number, and you should probably talk to a financial advisor about that, then you have to say, well, what do I need to do between now and then in order to reach that number, to reach that goal? And that's really what financial planners are really good at doing. So if you're thinking about retiring soon and you haven't begun to address these questions, you will have, I think, corporate speak is challenges. Because you may be here a little longer than you like. The bottom right-hand meme there is my favorite one. I said you held Christmas off. Yeah. And then the general goal is to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working, which I suppose is okay. But I'm really tired of being poor. I want to be one of those wealthy retirees I see on the ads on television, with my golden sneakers membership, jetting off to the Caribbean. But apparently that's not the plan. Apparently the plan is to maintain the same lifestyle I've had while I was working. So if you're going to retire at age 67, the first question you have to answer is, how long are you going to live? What? That's absolutely crazy. How long are you going to live? I mean, please, really. And that's the first of our answers? Oh my God, that's not a question. That's not an answer. Yeah, really, seriously, come on. And actually, it's the first of our guesstimates. And that's the most frustrating thing about retirement planning is that we want the right solid answers. There aren't solid answers. There are good guesses. There are estimates. There's probability. There's likelihood. But there aren't really solid numbers. And flight attendants like to have the answer. And yeah, that's going to be the most frustrating thing. So here's the answer on how I'm going to live. Your life expectancy in 2022 is 77.3 years. It's the third year in a row that life expectancy has declined in the United States. Thank you, opioid epidemic. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, epidemics of despair. 2020 had the largest decline since World War II. And there were a lot of people that didn't make through that. So that tells you how things are going right now. If you're a man, that's 74.5. And if you're a woman, that's 80.2. And guys, I got a question. If we allegedly run the world, how did we let that happen? Come on. Maybe we don't really run the world. Anyway, yeah, and that's going to be less for African Americans and more for Hispanics. I got all of these numbers out of the National Vital Statistics Report, Volume 6, book number 6. And I have discovered that is the best cure for insomnia. You take that on the layover, you will sleep like a baby. I'm telling you. But that's the first of our guesstimates. And the problem with that number is that it's just an average. Half of us are going to die sooner than that, and half of us are going to die later. I like to tell the story. I started going gray in high school. And, in high school, you're all trying to fit in. And here I am getting gray hair. People thought I was a teacher or something. It was terrible. I went home one day and I said, hey, Mom, I discovered in biology class today that my gray hair is all your fault. All of the characteristics of a man's hair comes on the mother's genes. Yeah. So, what's that mean? What happened to my uncles and grandfathers and everything? Did they go bald early? Am I going to go bald in college? I mean, what's going on? She said, oh, honey, none of them ever lived that long. Great. Good genetic heritage, the best gift you can give your kids. So the question you have to ask yourself is, which half are you in? And you will hear that repeatedly, because that drives a lot of the decisions you have to make. I want to be in the half that lives longer than average, but half of us are going to be in the bottom half of the average. So which half are you in? Of course, that's just one of our guesstimates. There's some other guesstimates we have for salary projection, because we know wages always go up, except in the airline industry. Okay, yeah. Or how about inflation? Because inflation always goes up. Well, except for the last 11 years, we're finally getting back to a more normal curve, but Lordy.
And we don't like it.
No, I really don't like going back to normal. I like that 1.5%. But how about investment return? The stock market. Yeah, not even going to talk about that. So that's money. now comes the hardest question of all. Are you ready to retire? Yeah. And you've got to be ready to retire. I mean, you need to be ready. We talk to a lot of people who've already retired. The company finds some new way to screw them and they call and we fix it. And then I say, no, wait a minute, before you hang up, I got a question for you. Was it the right time? Did you go? Were you happy? I mean, is everything good for you? And like 98, 99% are like, oh, it's the best thing I ever did. I don't know why I waited. My life is so full. I don't know how I ever had time to go fly a trip. Is it happening? Yeah, okay. I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the 1 or 2% that aren't happy. Why aren't they happy? What happened? What? And almost invariably, it's because they didn't plan. Oh, $40,000, man, that'll last me the rest of my life. Or they took the sudden out. Yeah, you know, the sudden out where your supervisor and union rep meet you on the jet bridge. And the union rep says, I got you retirement. As you walk up the jet bridge, you better take it. Or your body decides you're retiring now. You just didn't have a chance to plan. I've got good news for you. You are watching this video because you are planning. You are going to be in the 98% that are very happy when they retire. So the only question is, have you reached that point? And I mean, we're flight attendants. We're going to talk to everyone about it. We're going to talk to, you know, our spouse, our advisors, our sister, that buddy bidder, that flight attendant you've never seen before sitting on the jump seat trying to get to work. And because all of those people love you and care for you, they're going to give you the answer that's right for them because they don't know what's right for you. And you have to decide. One of the best examples of that was told to me by a flight attendant about a year ago. And she said, you know, I was not 100% sure that I was ready to retire. I was pretty sure, but I wasn't 100% sure. And then she said, I realized I felt that feeling before. And that almost sure, but not 100% sure was when I was trying to decide if I wanted to be a stewardess. She was a bit from the old school. And she said, and I went for it because it seemed to be a good option. I seemed to be ready. And I did that same thing when I retired and it worked out fabulously. So have you reached that point? Questions?
All right. First question, what are the dues requirements to retire?
All right. Feel free to jump in, Josh, but for retirement with the company, there are no dues requirements. It's the 65-point plan, which means, I guess, dues in terms of your years of service. You have to have at least 10 years of company seniority, and your age plus your years of service must equal 65 or more.
Yep, that's right. I'm a 69-year-old from class 1424. Since I was part of furlough, can you tell me when my earliest retirement date would be?
Okay, so if you started, and I don't know which month class 1424 started in, but I mean, if you're 69, you have to work at least 10 years, you know, to be eligible for retirement. Obviously, you've got the age component already, but you still have to get the 10 years of company seniority. So 2034 sometime.
She's at 9. She'd be at about 9 years.
Class 14, right.
Yeah.
So it's in 2024 sometime, depending on the month she started. And the best way to find that out is to call 1-800-447-2000. That's the team member services number at the company, because they determine the, you know, whether you're eligible for the 65-point plan or not. And you can follow the prompts for retirement services. And there is someone there who will tell you exactly when you're going to be eligible for the 65-point plan. So that's the best way to find out exactly the date that you're eligible.
And here's a pro tip. If you go to the myaa.com benefits page, there's a chat function, 9 to 5 Dallas time. Ask the question there and then save that chat, and you've got written proof in case they screw up.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Going back to the dues question, although, you know, being in bad standing with the union doesn't preclude you from retiring, we do really want to encourage you to be in good standing so that your balance doesn't go to collections. Just want to do that plug.
Yeah, and if you're in good standing, even after you're retired, you can attend the retirement seminars and
That's
get
right.
all kinds of good help. So it always is a good plan to be dues current when you retire.
That's right.
We speak to retirees on a regular basis, so.
All right, next question. Do educational and personal leave count toward the 65 points? And which date do we use to calculate the 65 points? Occupational, company, or vacation date?
So we use company seniority to calculate the 65-point plan. And in terms of your leaves, those leaves are offered by the company based on, whether their operation allows them to offer those leaves. So those leaves do not affect your company seniority and therefore would not affect your ability to retire.
If you look in your HI-8, I believe it is, you'll see your different seniority dates. And there's 3 different ones listed there. Look for the company, because even if you had something that impacted your company seniority, it would be reflected in that date there.
If you're not sure about retirement date because you want to wait and see if contract settles with retro pay, can you request retirement kit to be ready, or do you have to have a date set in stone?
There's not a retirement kit to request from the company. There is a pension kit that if you have either a PBGC pension or an American Airlines pension, you have to request that in advance. And you cannot request that more than 90 days out. So you could tell the PBGC or AA that you're going to retire in 90 days and go ahead and request that information if you wanted to, because basically that's not going to be with the PBGC. It would be processed and you can take your pension as long as you're eligible while you're still working. With the legacy AA pensions, they're not going to even process that paperwork until they know that you have retired. So I guess you can request that paperwork, and then if you don't you change your mind and you don't decide to retire, or you want to wait and see if there's some kind of a signing bonus, you just you may have to request it again if it expires.
Are you going to cover the different pension plans, i.e. annuity, etc.? Yes, we will. That's coming up soon. All right, that's all we have for now.
All right, Kim, what can you tell us about what you get in retirement?
Okay, so what you get in retirement in terms of retirement benefits, you get travel privileges, you get paid out for your sick and your vacation, you get a retirement gift, you get the status of being a retiree, and you get the option to purchase some really expensive retiree medical as long as you retire between the ages of 55 and 65 and are not Medicare eligible. So let's talk about those travel benefits. You get D1, D2R, D2P, D3, AA20, and 20% off Advantage tickets. And the D1, you notice it does not say D1R, just D1. Your D1s are regular D1s even after you retire. You get the same number as a retiree that you have as an active employee. All non-rev travel is booked through the non-rev travel planner, which is available on the AA Retirees website, www.retirees.aa.com. Service charges and taxes are charged to your credit card, just like they are when you're an active employee. Obviously, you don't pay unless you get on the flight. And a pro tip with your D3s, make them use their own credit cards so you don't get dinged for those service charges. Zed Travel's booked through My ID Travel, also on the retirees website. There's no jump seat authority. Unfortunately, that goes away, and that's a big ouchie for a lot of people. And no KCM, unfortunately, either. So you got to go through regular security and don't get to ride on the jump seat anymore. Bummer. There are some non-rev friendly travel agencies such as Perks and Dargal. And I just talked to a good friend who's retired several years ago. She's doing a really nice cruise in Europe, one of those river cruises, and it's like 90% off or something. So there are some pretty good perks in terms of those cruise discounts and other things like that. Also, if you're considering, retiring in the next 6 months or so to a year and your TSA pre-check or global entry are about to expire, you might want to consider getting the company to pay for it one more time before you retire. Only works if the timing is right, but it's something to think about. All right, sick time and vacation. Your unused sick time is paid out at $8.65 per sick hour. That's it. We are trying to get that changed in the upcoming contract, and we'll see how that goes. So we always recommend that you do use your sick time before you retire for a legitimate purpose so that you can maximize, that value. You earned it. So, and usually by the time you get a certain age, there's a reason, a legitimate reason to use it.
One of the few advantages to falling apart as you get older.
Don't talk about that. Okay, so your unused and accrued vacation are paid out at the contractual rate, which is 4 hours per day at your rate of pay, as long as you have at least 7 days of vacation. If you have 6 days or less, then it's 3 hours and 3.5 hours of pay per hour. 3 hours, God, I'm
3.5
having
hours
trouble with that. 3.5 hours of pay per day at your rate of pay. But most people, when they retire, do have at least 7 days of vacation, from my experience. So you're not eligible for the 401k match is not eligible with your vacation payout. So the employer portion, but you are eligible for your employee portion. So if you want to, up your contribution level before you retire, so a big portion of that vacation payout goes into your 401k for the final payment, and something to think about. A lot of people do that. That's pretty much what I just said. You can up your 401k contribution prior to retirement to maximize that final contribution. All right, you get a retirement gift when you retire. You remind your flight service manager within the last 30 days, that they need to request your retirement gift catalog. And the catalog comes with a commemorative certificate. It shows your years of service, and you want to make sure they get that right. There's an option of gifts that you can order. You get like a mini Sky Mall catalog where you can order all kinds of fabulous things, including glass plaques, jewelry. And here's one of the examples, this fabulous crystal airplane tail. Patrick.
A pretty tail is always good to have around the house.
Okay, so your status is going to be changing from Sky Goddess to, wait for it, Cat Rancher. And don't be offended. Patrick and I both think that we're probably going to be cat ranchers after we retire.
90% there.
We're working on it. But if that doesn't fit you, you're still going to have a little bit of a status change nonetheless. You're going to get a retiree ID. You have to submit an online request for it. They do not mail it to you automatically. You can use it for discounts on shipping, your FedEx discount, hotels, rent cars, those cruise discounts we were talking about. When you travel, that retiree ID is not required. So if you don't get around to requesting it right away and you want to travel, you just need your government issued photo ID, either your passport or your driver's license, and that will suffice. Access to the retiree's website is another perk of retirement. So you will have everything you need to know as a retiree available on that website, which again is www.retirees.aa.com. You'll have access to your payroll information, the employee pay portal, or the archived e-pays or paperless pay. And your detailed sequence history will, however, not be available. So if you want to print that up prior to retirement, it's a good idea to do that. All right, so some people aren't able to retire. They just decide to leave a little bit sooner and they're not yet eligible. So what do you need to do? Guess what? You can just quit. You notify your manager that you are quitting, give notice, and say, you know, I'm over it. I don't want to work here anymore. It's been great, but see ya. Your vacation will be paid out at the contractual rate. If you qualify for a legacy AA pension, you'll be able to draw that at some point in the future. The same if you qualify for a PBGC pension and you're not already taking it, you will be able to still take that pension at some point in the future. And since you're not actually eligible for the 65-point plan, your sick time will be lost. You will not be paid out for that sick time. So if you're going to quit, maybe you should also use your sick time for a legitimate issue first. Just saying. All right, any questions?
All right. Is a month's notice required, or is the standard 2 weeks notice acceptable?
2 weeks notice is acceptable. So we usually suggest, I think the company may say between 2 months and 2 weeks on their website, and we usually say 1 month is sufficient, you know, so whatever you're comfortable with and your manager is comfortable with. We do find that if you notify the company too soon, they might need a reminder closer to the time.
Yeah, there's also things to consider, and I know we talk about it, the time of month, you know, for different benefits to kick in and things like
Correct.
that. So definitely consider that.
And this may be a new thing, we need to check on it, but I found out that even if you give your notification a month out, they're normally waiting till at least 2 weeks out before they put in the coding change to show you as a retiree, because they don't want it to affect your last paycheck. So
Yeah.
they wait until that middle of the month paycheck is done, and then they put the coding in to show you as a retiree at the end of the month.
What's the difference between AA 20 and 20% off Advantage tickets?
Actually, the 20% off Advantage tickets is just another way of saying that you get that discount on the Advantage miles as well. It's a little more complicated because in order to get it, because with the Advantage tickets, you have to go online, say, I want to pay in miles, select the flight, and just before you say confirm, there's a little box that says, put this PNR on hold. You click that little box and it says confirm, and then it gives you your PNR without actually confirming it. Write that down, call 888 We Fly AA and go through to an operator. They don't want you to get to one, so it's like 4 or 5 pushes through, and then explain, I'm booking an Advantage miles ticket and I need you to give me the discount. Give them the PNR, they'll pull it up, they'll put the discount in and confirm it for you.
Okay, so they made it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Good.
And then the AA 20 is just 20% off what the lowest available fare that we all get as employees and retirees.
Okay, great. This one has a couple questions, so we'll take them one at a time. If we retire before Medicare age of 65, then is there a company AA type of COBRA, or do we pay the universal standard COBRA rate until eligible for Medicare at 65?
That's coming. We've got actually some really good slides on that, so let's hold that in abeyance.
Let's bookmark that one. How are vacation days paid out?
So as I mentioned before, vacation days are paid out at the contractual rate. 7 days or more at 4 hours per day at your rate of pay, and 6 days or less at 3.5 hours per day at your rate of pay. And I said it better that time.
You did. Can I throw a confusing thing in there?
If you must.
If I retire on December 31st and I've used all my vacation days for this year, like I managed to hold them in like October, will not get zero because I've already, during that whole year, I'm retiring December 31st, I've accrued another 35 days. So I'm going to get paid out for those 35 days, which is about $9,500. But here's the trick. If I haven't used my current vacation because I put them all in January and February, I'm not only going to get the 35 days that I accrued this year, I'm going to have the 35 days that I bid for January and February. I'm going to get paid out for 70 days of vacation, which is about $19,000. So here's the question. Would you rather leave with a bunch of cash, or would you rather have a lot of time off before you leave? It's a what do you want to do? But some people call it building their own early out bonus.
That's a,
Yeah, or if you don't want to wait around for a signing bonus,
That's right. Yeah.
figuring out a way to get yourself a
Yeah,
bonus
right.
because you earned it.
Can you retire in your considered grace month, the month after your assigned CQ month?
Yes, you can, because you're legal for the FAA to fly in your grace month. So, and actually, that's a really popular time for a lot of people to retire. I get calls all the time and people say, I want to work in my base month and my grace month and then retire so I don't have to do training again. And if you get training put on your schedule, because they will put it on your schedule in your base month, and then if you don't go, they'll put it on in your grace month. The thing you have to do is contact your flight service manager and notify them that you're going to retire, and they can call training and have the training removed for you.
Good. If my birthday is April 9th, can I bid vacation days until that date and then retire? Or do I need to bid that month trips and finish that month, then retire officially on May 1st?
You can retire anytime you want, so you do what works for you. A lot of people, because of pensions and insurance and so on, find it works better to, have their last day as an active employee be the last day of a calendar month, and the first day as a retiree be the first day of the next calendar month. But if you want to retire on your birthday, your anniversary date, you just want to pick a random date in the middle of the month, that's okay. Just realize that your health insurance is going to end on midnight of your last day as an active employee. So if you retire in the middle of the month, you need to be able to go on a spouse's insurance or have some other insurance set up. And a lot of times with Medicare, for example, they want to start you on the first of a calendar month.
All right, we are good to continue.
All right, let's talk about income. So what about income?
Money, money.
Money. You, in retirement, hopefully you will have multiple streams of income. You'll have money from your 401k. You'll have money from your IRA. You'll have money from Social Security. You'll have money from savings. And that actually may be a lot of different things that you don't ordinarily think of as savings. And if you have a pension, you'll have money from your pension. And if you've got all 5 streams of income like that, I like to think of it as like a 5-legged stool. It's very stable. And the reason that's important, if one of the legs gets kicked out from underneath you, the other 4 will support you. Let's pick on Social Security. What if the United States Congress were to say, you know what? You took advantage of a tax-deferred 401k plan. Your employer took advantage of a tax-deferred pension. You don't need as much Social Security as somebody else. Or even more worse, you don't deserve as much.
They better not.
They wouldn't do that. Oh, yeah? Remember how Social Security used to be 65 to start full Social Security, and now it's 67? Yeah, they did that back when Ronald Reagan was president because they were having a tough election and decided that they wanted to balance the budget. And that's how they balanced the budget in that year, is by screwing over our Social Security, because they figured by the time we figured out what they'd done to us, that they'd be dead. They were right, but I'm still pissed at them. But so yeah, and there's discussion in our current Congress about whether or not we should push 67 further out for full Social Security. But if you've got all those streams of income, I'm not saying it's not going to hurt to lose one of those legs, but it's not going to be devastating. And every time I look at this list, I'm so glad I work in a unionized workforce where the union cares about us having all of these options out there, because I contrast that to the over 50% of people on Social Security that is their only or primary source of income. I mean, how much security is in a life where your whole financial well-being is dependent on the good grace of the United States Congress? Lord help us.
Scary.
Yeah. So we've got all these. Hey, what about my 401k loan? Well, the first option is you continue to pay back the loan on your current amortization schedule, or you can just pay it off entirely if you've got that kind of money laying around. The second option is you stop making payments and take the outstanding balance as a distribution, which will be taxed as income, whatever bracket you end up in, and subject to the penalty if you're not yes 59 and a half.
Not a good option.
Not a good option. We call that shooting yourself in the foot option. So, hey, what about the 401k? One last thing to remember, your 401k will freeze in the first 30 days of your exit from the company. So if you need money out of that 401k in the first 30 days, just before you leave, you might want to consider rolling some of that money out prior to exiting. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait 30 days for the freeze to retire. I also want to point out, if you need money out of your 401k in the first 30 days of retirement, you may not quite be financially ready to retire. So yeah, think about that. Talk to a financial advisor. Oh, and you can roll your 401k into an IRA, or if you go get a new job that has a 401k, welcome to Walmart. Welcome to Walmart. They've got a great 401k plan. They'd love to have you roll your American Airlines 401k over, because the cost of a 401k goes down as more and more people are involved with it. Or you can just leave and manage it through Fidelity. There are so many people in the American Airlines 401k plan that our fees are actually really small. They're like less than $100 a year to manage it, send you, have the website, send you your statements and so on. So the fees are really small there. Talk to your financial advisor, and you'll want to make sure that your financial advisor is giving you advice that's good for you and not for them. I always like to know how my advisor is getting paid. I'm really partial to say, hey, I'll pay you X dollars an hour to give me advice. And regardless of what I choose, you don't make more money off me, because I run into these advisors that they really want you to roll your, $500,000 over into an IRA, because in order to do that, you have to sell everything in your 401k, bring the money over to the IRA, buy all that stuff again, and they make a commission on all of those purchases. So just make sure that the financial advisor is looking out for your best interest. You want to make sure that they have a fiduciary duty to you. Hey, speaking of that IRA, there are a couple of different kinds of IRAs. There's the pre-tax, and then there's the post-tax, the Roth. The IRA Roth was the original one, and that allows you to contribute money after you have paid tax on it. But here's the thing: it's going to grow inside that IRA, and when you get ready to take it out, you not only don't have to pay tax on the money that you put in originally, because you've already paid taxes on it, you don't have to pay tax on the earnings, the interest, which is one of the few places in the whole tax code where you get tax-free money, not tax-deferred, tax-free. The other is that weird municipal bond thing that I've never really understood. So I always have to talk to a financial advisor about those. And then the other problem with the IRA is that there are income limits. If you make more than $138,000 single or $218,000 married, they're not going to let you contribute to an IRA. You don't have that problem with the 401k. Even Robert Isom can contribute money up to the max in his 401k. You also have conversion. You can convert your 401k into an IRA, and as long as you're employed, you can convert it back. But the second you leave, you are stuck in the IRA. It's a one-way door once you've left. All right. Josh, questions?
All right. This is kind of okay. Please break down 401k distribution, receiving funds monthly versus taking lump sum.
It's exactly as you described it. You can call and say, hey, I want you to send me, let's pick a number, $2,000 a month. Every month they'll ACH $2,000 into your checking account, and they'll do that for as long as you've got money in the account. The lump sum is you call and you say, okay, I'm about to run out of money, send me another 10 grand. And in terms of your taxes, it doesn't make a whit of difference. I mean, if you take out 24,000 in 2,000 nice easy slices, or 24,000 in like 2 or 3 lump sums, your taxes are going to be the same. So it's just what's convenient for you, and how high a control freak are you as to how much money's in your checking account.
What's the length of time allowed after retirement to transfer 401k funds from AA to a brokerage account, and how to transfer the funds if a portion of the 401k is a Roth 401k?
You have until you're dead to transfer that. So that's another one of those, how long are you going to live? There's no, you got to get rid of the money by such and such a date. Because remember, the 401k people want you to leave it there. And with the Fidelity, it's a big plan. So that's not a bad option. And you can roll out some or all of it. And when you roll it out, they're going to say, well, where are you rolling it to? And you can only, you can roll the traditional 401k into a traditional IRA. You can roll the Roth 401k into a Roth IRA. If you try to cross over, you're gonna, particularly you take money out of the traditional 401k and try to put it into a Roth IRA, they're gonna charge you taxes on that because you took a distribution.
All right, we're good to continue.
All right. Hey, Kim, what can you tell us about Social Security?
Okay, Social Security. I remember listening to my grandparents talking about Social Security, and I never thought I'd be talking about it, but here I am. So, Social Security may be taken as early as age 62 or as late as age 70. There's no increase after age 70, so it doesn't make sense to wait and, start taking it at 70, for goodness sakes. Otherwise, you're leaving money on the table. The website for Social Security, and now those statements they used to send us in the mail are electronic. You can view those at www.ssa.gov, and you can go there and you can see how much you would get if you take early Social Security at age 62, regular Social Security, which for me would be at age 67, or wait till age 70 and see how much more that would be. Married couples have some complicated decisions about when and how to draw their Social Security. So if you're a single person, you have about 9 options. And if you're married, that multiplies into like 81 different options. Scary, and that's why you need to talk to a Social Security advisor, which we are not. There's apps you can do. If you're a geek like Patrick, you can put an app on your phone to figure out how to optimize your Social Security benefits. Or again, you can just call one of the Social Security advisors at your local Social Security office. So taking early Social Security at age 62, there are pros and cons when it comes to doing that. So let's go through them. One pro is that you get more years of payments. So if you need to start early, maybe your yearly or monthly payments are going to be less, but you will get more years of payments. So it kind of comes out in the wash. Another pro is you can get your money earlier if you need it earlier. A con, again, is that you have lower payments for the rest of your life. Another con is that you are subject to income limits if you start your early Social Security until you hit your Social Security normal retirement age. That pretty much means that you're limited on how much earnings you can have over and above your Social Security when it comes to taxes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So your income limit for 2023 is $21,240. So if you start your Social Security early and you earn more than that amount, you need to deduct $1 of benefits for every $2 earned over that limit. So the break-even point when it comes to Social Security, if you take it early or if you take it at the normal Social Security retirement age, is the average age of death. So if you're in a family where maybe you don't have good health, in the genes, then you might want to start it early. If your grandmother, like mine, got a new car in her late 80s, maybe you want to start at the normal Social Security age. So it's, again, what's the best plan for you? So here's a little graph kind of illustrating that. The blue line is someone who takes Social Security early at age 62. Red line takes it at age 66, normal Social Security retirement age for that person. And where the lines cross is the average age of death. It was age 79 and a half. Now it's age 77 point something, unfortunately. But wow. So which side of that line are you on? And that kind of helps you try and figure out when you want to start your Social Security. All right. Full Social Security. Everybody wants to know, what is the SSNRA, the normal Social Security normal retirement age, and when am I at that age? So we're going to have a chart in a minute, but there are special one-time limits for the year you reach your SSNRA. So for the month before your birth month, The limit on earnings is what, 58,520 for 2023. That means in the year that you retire and start your Social Security, they give you a little break on those income limits. So here's the normal Social Security retirement age. So for anyone who was born in 1960 or later, it's age 67. And then if it was prior to that, you see on the chart, it's 66 or 66 in a certain number of months. And if you were born before 1943, it's age 65. That's what the Reagan administration did when they balanced the budget. So, all right, so Patrick's going to talk about what counts as earnings for Social Security.
Okay, now when we say if you take your Social Security early, your earnings are limited. What do we mean earnings? Earnings include income from wages, or if you've got self-employment, after you pay your expenses, those net earnings from self-employment. They also include bonuses, commissions, severance pay, anything that you're like getting from your employer counts toward that $22,000 annual max. The good news is that earnings do not include investment income. So if you're living off your stock income, that doesn't count. You can draw your Social Security and the earnings income will not push you over the annual limit. It does not include pensions, ding, 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 ding. It does not include capital gains, inheritance. Thus, dividends and capital gains won't negatively affect your Social Security benefits directly, even if you decide to file earlier than your Social Security, your full retirement age. Remember, this is only relevant if you're taking it before your SSNRA. So, our Social Security taxes? Oh yeah, Social Security's tax. However, the good news is the first 15% of Social Security is tax-free. But what about that 85%? Well, you may or may not pay tax on 0, 50%, or 85% of the rest, depending on your combined income. Notice that this is how much will be taxed, not the tax. So if you make $0 to $25,000, 0 of your Social Security is taxed. It's tax-free or tax exempt. If you make $25,000 to $34,000, they're only going to take 50% of your Social Security as taxable. You're probably going to be in a pretty low tax bracket because $25,000 is a pretty low tax bracket. Or if you make more than $34,000, 85% of your Social Security will be subject to tax. And I mean, it could be a pretty high tax bracket if you're making, hundreds of thousands of other stuff. So does the state tax Social Security? Well, 37 states, your Social Security is state tax free. Yay. 13 states do tax some or all of your income. Who are those bad boys? Colorado, Connecticut, Kansas, Minnesota, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Utah, Vermont, and of course, West Virginia. So when you think about where you want to go retire, you might want to think about, is the place I'm retiring to going to tax my Social Security? Because that could affect whether or not you're going to have enough income in retirement. So you want to look at that. Savings. Well, savings comes in several different forms. In addition to the cash, stocks, and bonds, you may have hidden savings as well. For instance, your home equity. You may decide that you're going to sell your big 5-bedroom house and downsize to a nice small 2-bedroom condo somewhere where someone else has to worry about the hot water heater and mowing the lawn. And if you do that, you may actually end up with more money from the sale than you spend on that nice sized condo. So that's one way of tapping into your home equity. You can take out a home equity line of credit, take money out. Of course, you have to start paying it back right away. Or there's actually that product, reverse mortgages. And you notice how they really push them on TV. That's because they make a lot of money on them. And when they make a lot of money, you lose a lot of money. So they're not as bad as they were. So instead of losing an arm and a leg, you only lose an arm. But that's still really not a good idea. And you want to talk to a financial advisor to find some other route to get at it. And then life insurance. Some life insurance policies build cash value over the course of the whole life. And you may be able to withdraw some of the cash value of it. I want to point out this is not what you get if your spouse mysteriously dies, unless, of course, you have a really good alibi. So,
also want to point out that the life insurance that we get from American Airlines is term life insurance, and that does not acquire a cash value.
Yeah. All right. Pensions. Kim, what can you tell us about pensions?
All right, so if you're one of the lucky few that still has some sort of a pension, the carrier that you started your career with prior to the merger is gonna kind of determine when and how you can start your pension. So we had people on the Legacy US Airways side and people on the Legacy AA side. And on the US Airways side, look at all these carriers where you could have started your career. So there may be slightly different regulations with your pension plan based on where you started your career. For example, if you were a Trump shuttle flight attendant, your early pension age is age 52 and your full pension age is age 62. If you take it at the early pension age or anywhere before the full pension age, there is a 3% reduction per year prior to the full pension age. So keep that in mind. A lot of people go ahead and start it early because on the US Airways side, you can start your pension while you're still working, as long as you're at least the early pension age. If you started your career at Piedmont, Allegheny, or US Airways, your early pension age is age 55 and your full pension age is age 62. That 3% still applies. So if you started at 55, there would be a 21% reduction in the full value of your pension, but you'd be taking it for that many more years. For those PSA starter outers, well, the early pension age is not until 55 and the full pension age isn't until 65 in this situation. And keep in mind that 3% per year applies across the board for the LAA and the LUS pensions if you take your pension early. So on the Legacy AA side, the early pension age is 55. There is a 3% year reduction per year if you take it before the full pension age, which is age 60. Just want to remind everybody, if you're a Legacy AA flight attendant, there is no double dipping. That means for most people, there's one tiny loophole for certain people, but for most people, you're not going to be able to take your pension until after you retire. Double dipping is what we talk about for the PBGC pension holders who can take their pension while they're still working. And there were some restrictions that you could not double dip until you hit your full pension age. That went away in June of 2021. So now anybody with a PBGC pension can now double dip as soon as they hit their early pension age if they want to. So the early reductions that we talked about, that 3% per year, do still apply. And there are no reductions if you wait until the full pension age. All right, pension options. Patrick, how many options are there for taking my pension?
Well, it's funny you should ask that because there are three basic ways that you can get your money. First is the single life annuity. The PBGC calls this a straight life annuity, but you'll notice the little abbreviations, SLA, work both ways. So single life annuity, which we all call the SLA, or you can share with someone else. And I do remind you, it is nice to share, or you can say, I want a minimum number of checks, whether I'm dead or not. So, and if you happen to be a Legacy AA, there's a fourth option, more upfront, less later. On your estimate, they call that the level income option. Let's take a look at these. The SLA, you get a check every month until you're dead, and then it stops. And that's it. Pretty straightforward. And that's actually the normal form of benefit. A payment every month is an annuity, and it's life. It comes for your full life. And if you take the single life annuity, it will not stop until you do. And it's for one life, yours, and that's where we get the single life annuity or straight life annuity. And the SLA is the normal form of benefit. And the value of the SLA determines all the other payment options. What do you mean normal? Well, you know how when we were talking about if you've got enough money to retire, you've got to think about some things, how long you're going to live, when you're going to start your pension. When the company is trying to fund a pension, when you first hire in back when you were cute and young, they had to figure out how long you're going to work, what's your pay going to be, when you finally retire, how are you going to take your pension? And they decided, they make that measurement, assuming you're going to take this single life annuity. And that was, for the longest time in this country, the only form of benefit was the single life annuity or the joint survivor. And so they take that value and they determine what those other options are going to be based on the single life annuity value. Let's look at those. A pension for your life and someone else's life as well. They will get an annuity for their life after you're gone. They survive you and then they start getting money. You never both get checks in the same month because you're getting it and then you die. The survivor gets the checks for the rest of their life. And remember, it's still the same big pile of money. And you can choose to give them 50 to 100% of what you get, not your single life annuity out, but your share of the joint annuity. But the more you leave them, 75, 100%, the less you get while you're alive. Well, bummer. So I guess I'm going to have to do it because otherwise Bozo's going to be living under a bridge. So I'm going to go ahead and take less so that Bozo gets some after I'm dead. But what happens if I do that and they die first? Oh my God, I'm stuck with that lower monthly amount. I could have had a higher amount with a single life annuity.
Darn it.
Darn it. But I guess that's just the risk you got to take to protect Bozo, right? But there's a way to cover that risk. The flight attendants have another option. It's called the pop-up option. By taking a slightly lower amount each month, you can cover the risk that the joint annuitant dies first. With the pop-up option, if your joint annuitant dies first, you pop back up to the single life annuity amount, just as though you'd never made that. And for the rest of your life, you get the higher amount. The amount you have to pay, take less, depends on the age difference between you and the joint annuitant. But life's uncertain. I know you married that 32-year-old pool boy, and go you, by the way. Mm-hmm. But, you may find that the only reason they weren't too annoying is you were gone 3 days a week, and now, not working, and those chlorine pool accidents happen. So, yeah.
Very mysterious.
Very mysterious. So, yeah, and most people are going to take one of these two options. And by most people, I mean north of 90% are going to be in one of these two options, either the single life annuity or the joint survivor, almost always with the pop-up option. But there is another option, and that's the guarantee period certain. And checks will come for a minimum of 10, 15, or 20 years, or 5, 10, or 15 if you're in LUS. And I want to underline and bold that word minimum. If you take this option, you say, I'm going to take the 10-year minimum, and you live for 40 years, you'll get checks for 40 years. You made the wrong choice because you took less in order to have the minimum 10 years guarantee. Why would anyone do that? Why would you take less? Well, if you're pretty sure you're going to be dead soon and you want to leave a benefit for someone, by taking the 10, 15, or 20 years, they're going to get the benefit for the rest of that window after you're dead. Not very many people are going to go for this, but it's always nice to know it's there. And if you're legacy AA, you have a fourth option, and that's the level income option. More upfront, less later. And this is even more rare. If you're in the position where once Social Security kicks in and you've got your pension, you're going to be okay, not great, but okay. But Social Security isn't going to kick in for a while. AA says, we got a deal for you. We're going to give you more now, and then when Social Security kicks in, give you less so that it kind of balances it out, levels it out. I'm not even sure it's actuarially sound. They say it is, but there. But, if you need the money now and you don't have any other option, it's nice to know it's there. But, yeah, make sure you don't have any other options because that's what we do. So how do I apply for my pension? Well, not earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. Oh, no, Patrick, I'm a planner. I need to know 6 months out. Sorry, guy. 90 days before you start your pension. At LAA, it's easy. You can request a kit over the phone by calling the Pension Service Center, or you can go online and request your pension on the netbenefits.com/AA. And under the quick links, you'll find request your pension. If you're LUS, you contact the PBGC directly at the 800 number or go on to www.pbgc.gov. And they call that that application and collection of papers to request your pension a kit. Are pensions taxed? Oh yeah, pensions are taxed. You pay federal income tax on pensions just as ordinary income, just as though you had earned it, and a paycheck, 10 to 37%.
And you
Here's the
did
tax-
earn it.
And you did earn it, yes. That's true. If you're making between 95,000, 182,000, you're gonna pay tax on 24% of everything over the 95,000. If you're making more than 578,000 a year, you probably weren't a flight attendant. Oh, wait. And you'll be paying 37% on everything over 578,000. Remember, your mileage, some states, 14 of them exact, only tax a portion of pensions. There's 4 states. So yeah, that's pretty good to know. Remember, where you live may affect how much income you have left to spend. Remember, your mileage may vary. These numbers are used for some mythical flight attendant and not for you. Hey, Kim, do you have any pension tips for us?
Indeed, I do. So our pension tips are pension kits can be requested from AA, which is now handled by Fidelity, or the PBGC, no more than 90 days out from your retirement date. Pensions always start on the first of the calendar month, so you want to be done with your last trip before the end of the previous calendar month. And we don't talk about bid months or contractual months. This is always the calendar month when it comes to pensions. So a fly-through trip that cannot be dropped could keep you on payroll and delay your pension by a month. You don't want that to happen. So just in case the FSM doesn't get that coding changed in a timely manner, don't risk it by having a fly-through trip on your schedule. All right, more pension tips. Have copies of all divorce decrees and quadros. Your pension could be delayed if those documents are not already on file and submitted with your kit. So basically, if you've been divorced during the period of time that you were working for the company that you got that pension from, then they need the divorce paperwork. If you were divorced before that, you don't have to worry about it. So
all of my divorces?
All of your divorces. You're gonna have to own up to them, man. All right. If you're a widow or a widower, you're gonna have to include a copy of the death certificate with your pension kit when you return it. The first month of your pension is always paid retroactively. So say you retire on August 1st, you'll probably get your first pension check. Usually these days, they're getting better. So between 2 weeks and 4 weeks after you retire. So they will retro pay it as long as you got your pension paperwork request in, usually before the 15th of the month prior to your retirement. All right. The qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity. This is something that's applicable for legacy AA flight attendants only with pensions. Federal law says that your spouse automatically gets a 50% joint and survivor annuity if you were to pass away prior to commencing your pension. So this form allows you to leave 100% joint and survivor annuity rather than 50% to your spouse if something happens and you pass away prior to commencing your pension benefits. The form is actually available now through Fidelity. It's not on JetNet, but you can go on JetNet and link to Fidelity to request the form. And we have it on apfa.org, but it's just an example of the form. You actually have to get the actual form from Fidelity. Flight attendants are the only work group in the company that can do this, which means complete the form and the company pays for it. If you talk to people in other work groups, for example, pilots, they'll say, don't fill out the QPSA form or it will affect, it will reduce your pension amount. Well, that may apply for them, but it doesn't apply for the flight attendants. It was a negotiated benefit by APFA and we don't have to pay for it. Oh, another thing, you must have been married at least 12 months in order to fill out this form. So no deathbed marriages or anything like that. That's not going to qualify. All right. Any questions?
We have quite a few. First one, What is a QDRO or quadro?
Funny you should ask. It's a qualified domestic relations order, and it is an order signed by a divorce court judge telling the holder of the pension, and like in our LAA pension, that would be Fidelity and State Street Bank, that hold the money. And it's an order from the judge that says, hey, take Patrick's pension, cut this much of it off and give it to his nasty ex. And that separates that part out. And if you have a quadro on file, they cut your pension by whatever percentage the judge said to cut it. And now there are two pensions out there, one for you and one for the nasty ex.
How do you know if you are the PBGC that can double dip?
If you have an LAA pension, you're not. If you don't have an LAA pension, you are.
So if you have an Eastern, TWA, Legacy, US Airways pension, those are all held by the PBGC.
Okay, we're rolling in. If you have to draw down from 401k, can you roll it back in?
No, you can only make contributions from your paycheck or rolling it over from another plan, like an IRA or another 401k.
What happens to your flexible spending account when you retire in the middle of the year?
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought. That's
All right.
a later question for insurance.
I just turned 60 and I'm too young for traditional retirement. I've been diagnosed with terminal cancer and I'm currently unable to work. It looks unlikely that I'll be able to return to work and will need to separate from the company in the next few months for health reasons. Can my leaving the company be considered somehow an early retirement or is it disability? I began with American 33 years ago and have a frozen pension. What can I arrange for my husband to receive after I die?
Well, we're sorry to hear that news, but this person is clearly eligible for the 65-point plan, so they can be a retiree. They also can retire whether or not they're on disability. They're kind of two separate issues, but a lot of people who have medical issues go out and file a claim for long-term disability, California state disability, whatever disability they're eligible for, and then retire after that. And as long as they're still disabled, that disability is going to have to pay out for as long as they're eligible under that particular plan. So they can continue to get disability benefits after they retire. They can retire as long as they're eligible for the 65-point plan. You don't get anything extra, unfortunately, if you retire due to a disability.
Yeah, and there are a couple of things you need to think about. One is insurance. And as you have undoubtedly experienced, American will give you the subsidized for 1 year after you get your last dollar of sick time out of your bank. Okay, the minute you have unpaid sick, US, on your HI-1, that starts the 1 year clock. You get the discounted rate or the subsidized rate on your health insurance for that 1 year. So if you're still in that window, there's no rush to run out the door. I mean, it's not like American's going to fire you for having cancer and you know, you got all the doctor's notes and everything. So you might want to think about just staying on as long as you're within that 1 year window. If you've got the disability, you probably want to apply for Social Security disability as well, because 24 months after your Social Security disability date, you're going to be eligible for early Medicare. So there's that. If you can't wait and there's this big gap in there, we're going to talk about your other options in just a minute.
Okay. Some of these were submitted in advance of the retirement seminar, so I know you've walked through this information, but just to go through it, can I retire at 60? I heard you can actually take pension early, something about a double dip.
So you can retire at 60 if you're eligible for the 65-point plan, and the pension is totally separate from that. And you can take your pension as long as you're eligible. I think at most for every pension, you can take it at age 60, as long as you have enough years of service. So for the Legacy AA people, age 60 is the full pension age. If you started at age 60, there's not any kind of reduction. For the Legacy US Airways folks, I think it's either 62 or 65 for the full pension age. So if you take it, you can take it prior to that, but there would be a little bit of a reduction. What else was in the question? I think it had a couple of.
I think you covered it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and always remember, your pension and retirement are two different steps. I helped a woman last week. She's 48 and she's retiring because her age and company seniority equals 65 or more. She's not going to get a pension until she's 65, but they're totally separate steps.
Okay. Tell us, this flight attendant doesn't identify themselves as a Legacy AA or Legacy US. They do say, tell us more about a proposed pension withdrawal while still on the line.
The proposed, that could be one of two things. There's some discussion in Congress about changing some of the PBGC rules, but that's for our pensions at PBGC, it doesn't matter because we now can all claim our PBGC pension and still work. You just have to take the hit for the early retirement. The other proposed could be that it's something in contract negotiations, and if you've been following along, we have the most transparent contract negotiations we have ever had, and that's not out there.
That's not a proposal.
Yeah, so that transparency is just ruining the rumor mill. But yeah.
But there's no proposal on the table that would allow the Legacy AA people to take their pension, while they're still working. Yeah, unfortunately, that would be nice for me, but since there are fewer and fewer people in that pension plan, and it only represents a smaller portion of our members, it's probably not something that's going to happen. And the company would have to pay a lot of money to do that. And we might be better off getting good wages for everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see.
For years, AA kept our pension trust funded at about 100%. Now it's generally funded at about 80% required minimums. Any concerns about this?
I'm always concerned about that, whether or not there's enough money in my pension.
But did they ever actually, I don't think they ever actually kept it funded at 100%.
It always depends on what measure you use. If you say that the money that's in there is going to earn 22%, we're way overfunded, but you're never going to earn 22% on safely invested money. If you say the money is only going to earn 2%, we're way underfunded. So that lever determines what your projected funding level is. The other projection is, when are people going to retire? If you have most of your people not claiming their pension until they're late in their 60s or 70s, you've got a lot of money. Mm-hmm. If people start taking their pensions at 60 or 62, you may not have enough money. So calculating what percentage of your pension is funded is always kind of guesswork. The reason that the number went down is, for many years, the Congress allowed the companies to use unrealistically high interest returns. So we were 100% funded. Now they say, what are you actually making? Let's use that number from the last 3 years. Yeah, now that we're using a more realistic number, it looks like we're not as well funded. And if you actually go and look at the real dollars that are in there, we're actually doing better than we were 4, 5, 6 years ago. But because we're using more realistic numbers, it looks like we're down. But I'm always concerned. I would love to have American fund us 100%. We had a JetNet article a couple of weeks ago about how we're going to pay down $15 billion in debt. And the little message I sent to corporate was, don't forget the debt that you owe on the pensions as well. That should be part of the $15 billion.
I think you kind of answered this next question in part. Legacy AA, how do we know if we have a pension and how much is it worth? How much it is worth?
So you can go to the Fidelity website, and it will show you one of the pension options, which is the single life annuity. And if you click on that pension area, you can go and do an estimate that shows all of the pension options and how much they would be. You just have to plug in a potential retirement date.
And once a flight attendant retires, that pension amount cannot be decreased, right?
The pension amount can be decreased if you choose an option where it is decreased. And the one that's called the what's it called, the level income option, where you get more upfront and less later, that option is going to decrease if you choose that option. If you choose just the single life annuity, that's going to be the same amount every month for as long as you live, so.
I wonder if what they're really asking there is, could American change my number? Say my pension is going to be $1,000 a month. Could American later change that number? That may be what they're asking.
Could be.
No, except if they were able to dump the pensions on the PBGC and your pension exceeded the annual limit. Right now, the annual limit is $64,000, and if your flight attendant pension exceeds $64,000, I want to talk to you and figure out how you did that.
How would they dump the pension onto the PBGC?
Very good question.
Mhm.
In order to dump the pension on the PBGC, American has to convince the bankruptcy judge that there is no way they could survive after bankruptcy if they had to continue to fund the pension.
Got it.
It just keeps getting to be a smaller and smaller group. And they weren't able to do that in the last bankruptcy. They were unable to convince the judge of that. So I get less and less concerned the further down the road we get.
How do I maximize getting paid my 5 weeks of vacation upon retirement date of August 2024?
I think I covered some of that. You will, if you have vacation for the current year that you haven't used yet, and you push it into the next calendar year, that, the monthly vacation rebid thing, and you push it all down past the August 2024, you'll have all of those days that you're going to get cashed out. And then all the days you earn between January and August of 2024. So that'll maximize your lump sum check. Is there a cost to that? Yes. If you take it as vacation days and you successfully jump through all of those hoops to get either the language premium, the galley premiums, or the purser premiums, then you will get those paid out, which you will not get when you get paid the lump sum. But it's getting harder and harder to jump through the hoops. And frankly, I'd rather have the large lump sum at the end instead of trying to play that game before I leave.
Also, another thing to think about, though, if you take it all in one big lump sum, it could bump you into a higher tax bracket. So you end up paying more taxes on it. Whereas if you spread it out and use it as vacation, you're just going to be taxed on your normal monthly amount. So.
Right. And you spread it into multiple years by taking some now and some, yeah.
How much can I make while receiving Social Security?
If you are past your Social Security normal retirement age, you can take as much money as you can. There's absolutely no maximum because Social Security is not means tested. The only hit is if you take it early, you have a limit as to how much other money you can earn.
Greetings, retirement gurus. I love that. Would you please take a moment and talk about the pension options that combines monthly benefits with early Social Security, pros, cons, etc.?
Level income.
Oh, the level income we just covered. So, it sounds like they're looking at what you're getting in Social Security. They don't care. They don't know. All they want to know is, are you going to take your pension more upfront, less later? And that can be as early as age 62, as late as your full Social Security normal retirement age, depending on what age you're at. Yeah, that chart we showed earlier, what your full SSNRA is. And you can make that selection and totally not follow that with Social Security. I've seen people say, I'm going to take the more upfront until age 66, 67, but they don't start their Social Security until age 70. So the company doesn't know or care what you're really doing with Social Security. They only want to know, how do you want us to pay out your pension benefit?
So the pros and cons are, you can have more money up front if you need it. But the thing to think about is it is going to drop when it hits that date. So you need to budget for it. That's the big con. On a certain date, the day after you turn either 62 or your normal Social Security retirement age, that amount is going to drop and it's going to stay lower for the rest of your life. So the only people I ever hear from that have a problem with that are the ones that don't budget for it. If you plan and you budget for it, when that amount drops, it's not going to be as painful. But if you don't plan for it, then when that pension amount drops, it is going to be painful. So,
Following back up to our vacation question, the individual looking at 2024 August retirement, they followed up and said, so I can take my 23-24 vacation and get paid for what I've accrued in 2024 through August.
Yes.
correct.
Okay. So that should answer your question. And just want to remind everyone also, if your question isn't in, if you have some follow-up questions afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us. Kim's phone number is 817-540-0108. And your extension is
8490.
8490. And retirement@apfa.org. Okay, just two more, I think, and we are ready to continue. Oh, thank you for all this advice and information. Wish I could retire early, 60-year-old with 40 years of seniority. Thank you for being on today.
Thanks.
Could you please explain the pre-62 part of pension disbursement?
Sure. I think that's another question about that level income. And when you say level income, you say, I want more upfront until, and you get to choose the drop down date, either age 62 or your regular Social Security age, which, you know, again, could be anywhere between 65 and 67. So you get more upfront with your pension until age 62 or SSNRA.
And the assumptions built into those two scenarios, if you take the age 62 option, it assumes that you're going to start your Social Security early at age 62. And if you take the SSNRA option, it assumes you're going to start Social Security at your normal Social Security retirement age. So those are the reasons that the pension would drop on those dates, because the assumption is that you're going to start Social Security on those dates.
This last one has a few parts to it. If you guys want to check out number 14 on the town hall, the question.
Break down all the scenarios regarding pension.
Not sure how we.
I think we just did.
Okay.
Yeah, but we had those four options.
Through all the slides and everything, I think we've covered that. If you have some more questions, please again feel free.
The only thing in here is withdrawing portion disbursement versus a lump sum while still employed. There aren't really any options either with the PBGC or with the legacy AA pensions, unless you have a really tiny pension that's like under $1,000 or $5,000 where you could ever get a lump sum. So it's not really an option for most people to get a lump sum. It's always going to be a monthly annuity. And
Anything else in there?
which is better considering a person's.
You know, I'm not sure those are all. I guess he starts with pension, so it could all be question of pension. It could also be talking about taking money out of the 401k, and that's a tax question. You know, which is going to be better, annuity or taking it as a lump sum. Talk to your financial advisor, because that's what they're great at.
But if it's talking about considering a health situation, then it might be better if you're, you know, healthy to sort of spread it out over a longer period of time because you're going to live longer, you know. And if you aren't healthy, then you might want to kind of take out more to cover your, you know, your health expenses and so on. So that's another possibility. And the good thing about the 401k is that it's flexible that way.
All right, we are good to continue. Thank you, guys.
Kim, let's talk about medical insurance options.
Medical insurance options. I always get the exciting ones. So here are options, and we're going to have little dollar signs next to them that kind of give you an idea of the cost after you retire. So Cobra, obviously, kind of expensive, $3 signs. The AA retiree medical insurance, super expensive, more than 100% of what it's worth. They really zing you on that one. That's why there's not very many people that actually take it. The Affordable Care Act, usually that's relatively reasonable, but it can be pretty expensive, and in some states where they don't subsidize it as much, it can be comparable to COBRA. So you just kind of have to check what's available in your state and see. Medicare, usually the most reasonable for people if you're eligible for it. That's the kicker. Or the old-fashioned way, you can marry someone with insurance or go on your spouse's insurance if that's an option. Or die young, but we don't want to do that. That's no fun. All right, so let's talk about COBRA. COBRA is a way to continue the exact health coverage that you had as an active employee. You don't have to establish your deductible or your out-of-pocket max. So that's a good thing about COBRA. But the participant pays the full cost plus a 2% administrative fee, and that can be pretty expensive. Coverage can last for up to 18 months normally, or if you are disabled, it can last for up to 29 months. That's if you qualify for Social Security disability. It must be taken within the first 60 days of leaving the company. So you have a window, and if you miss that window, you're not going to have the option to opt for COBRA again. And it's a one-shot deal. More about COBRA. It can include medical, dental, vision, and flexible spending, and you can mix and match the coverage. That's a good thing because say you're eligible for Medicare, so you can opt not to take the medical, but you can keep the dental and vision for a period of time. Once the coverage begins, it's retroactive to the date you leave American Airlines. So you retire on the 1st, you sign up for COBRA on the 15th. Once you sign up for COBRA, it's going to go back to the day you left the company. So it will be as though you've had continuous coverage, even though there's always going to be a little bit of an administrative lag time. The payments, it's very important with COBRA that you don't want to miss a payment or be late because your coverage will be dropped. And another thing, if you are eligible for Medicare, you need to remember that COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage for Medicare. That's why if you're eligible for Medicare, you really need to sign up for Medicare. COBRA is always secondary to Medicare. And if you choose not to sign up for Medicare, one, could be penalized, and two, COBRA is only going to pay as though you have Medicare. So you're going to get yourself in a bit of a mess. If you're eligible for Medicare, you definitely need to sign up for Medicare. All right, so let's talk about that AA retiree medical insurance. It was once our pre-funded medical benefit, and when we retired, we weren't going to have to pay anything for it. But after bankruptcy, that has changed. You must be between 55 and 65 at the time of retirement and also eligible for the 65-point plan in order to be eligible for this insurance. The participant pays the full cost, and it's pretty costly. The price is uncapped, and it absolutely doubled in 2015. It's very unstable. It is great medical coverage. So here's an example, it's like the old retiree standard medical plan. If you're a legacy American Airlines person, you might remember what that is.
That looks great.
$150 deductible per person, $1,000 out-of-pocket max. It looks amazing. But per person per month, $2,171 this year in 2023. Ouch. Now that our support animal has fainted at the price of this coverage, what other options do we have? Let's see. Well, there's the Affordable Care Act. Go on www.healthcare.gov. If your income is low enough, you could qualify for tax credits. VIA Benefits is a company that AA works with, and they can help you if you are pre-65 and looking for insurance through the Affordable Care Act. They can help you figure out what's available in your area. If you're post-65 and you're looking for a Medicare plan, let's see, don't even know where to start, they can help you with that as well. And their website, which is listed in the back of our retirement package, as long as with both of these phone numbers, is www.myviabenefits.com/American Airlines. All right, so Medicare. If you're eligible for Medicare, that's going to be your option, basically. And that's what a lot of people are waiting for in order to retire. Employees and spouses over 65, if you're still working for AA and you're over 65, you can remain on AA insurance. Your best friend's going to tell you you need to sign up for Medicare. Your sister's going to tell you, the person on the jump seat's going to tell you, but you don't have to sign up for Medicare as long as you're still working for the company. Once you retire, you do have to sign up for Medicare. Medicare is comprised of Part A, Part B, and Part D. Part A is your hospitalization. That part you kind of pay for all along as you're working. That's that FICA tax.
Pre-funding.
So you're pre-funding your Medicare Part A, which is the hospitalization. And a lot of people go ahead and sign up for that at 65, even if they're still working, because there's not usually a cost associated with it. The only time it's not advisable to sign up for Medicare Part A is if you're on the, what's the core plan?
Core plan.
The core plan, which is the high deductible plan. That has an account that you can take with you into Medicare. And if you have Medicare, you're not allowed to contribute to that account. So that's the only plan, the core plan, that has that sort of account. Medicare Part B is your doctor's visits and your labs and so on. And Medicare Part D, D for drug, that's your prescription drug coverage. So when you retire, in addition to Medicare A, B, and D, really you're going to have to sign up for a supplement plan and or a Medicare Advantage plan. So as far as Medicare A, B, and D go, if you don't sign up for them, either at age 65, if you're not working anymore for an employer that provides insurance, or right after you retire, you could be subject to late enrollment fees. And in order to avoid these late enrollment fees, when you retire, there's a form you get filled out that shows you've had good creditable coverage from your employer, and that is called the Medicare CMSL 564, or the Employment Verification Form. Here's a copy of it. This is what it looks like. It's pretty simple. You fill out the top portion, you fax it in to Alight, which is AA Benefit Service Center, and they will fill out the bottom portion. They will snail mail it back to you. And then you take it to the Medicare office when you're ready to sign up, and they'll see that you've had coverage through your employer, and they're not going to charge you any late enrollment penalties. All right, more about Medicare. There are Medigap policies, also known as Medicare supplement plans. And they cover, because Medicare doesn't really, it has a deductible, but it doesn't have an out-of-pocket max. So if something bad happens to you, all that 20% that you have to pay can really add up to a lot of money. So you need something to give you an out-of-pocket max, and that's what the Medigap or Medicare supplement policies do for you. There are 10 different Medigap policies available. AA retirees have an 11th option, which is funded through a VIVA trust, an employee-funded trust, and created specifically for retired airline workers. We do have some information about this, well, how to contact the people that manage the plan on the APFA website. In addition to the Medigap or Medicare supplement plans, another option that some people choose is Part C or Medicare Advantage plans. Those are more structured like an HMO. You have a network of doctors. A lot of times they include your Medicare Part D, so you're not paying for a separate Medicare Part D. That can be good. The good thing about them is they're usually pretty affordable. They sometimes have perks like health club memberships and so on. A thing that cannot be as positive as sometimes if you're out in the country, you might not have a good network of doctors available to you. So really, talk to a Medicare advisor, make sure you understand what you're signing up for, and choose the thing that's right for you. A good place to start is asking your doctors, before you switch to Medicare, do you take Medicare? What plans are you on? If you have a lot of prescription drugs, talk to a Medicare advisor and find a prescription drug plan that's going to cover your drugs at the best rate. It's really important to, do your research before you sign up. And the Medicare advisors can be very helpful. And there's lots of information about the regulations, how to find a Medicare advisor, and so on Medicare.gov. So we've covered a lot of important questions throughout this presentation. What do you need to retire? What do you get in retirement? What about income? Patrick was really good at covering that. Now we're going to talk about just a few other little details that you might need to research. So what else might you need to research? Life events, optional insurance coverage. What's going to happen to that when you retire? Your dental insurance, flexible spending accounts. I think somebody already asked about that today. So life events. One thing to remember is your retirement is your spouse or partner's life event. So if your spouse is going to add you to their benefits when you retire, then your retirement date is their life events to add you. So keep that in mind. You don't want to miss that crucial life event if you need to go on your spouse's benefits. They have 30 days, sometimes 60 days to file the life event and make changes, adding you to their insurance coverage. If you're married to another AA employee, this still applies. But remember that if you switch to your spouse's life insurance, you're retiring, they're still an active AA employee, your deductible and your out-of-pocket will reset. So you're not just going to carry over like you had COBRA, you're going to have to reestablish that deductible and out-of-pocket max because they look at it as a new plan when you go on your spouse's benefits. Optional insurance. So examples of optional insurance that we have when we're active employees are MetLife legal, long-term care policies, home and auto policies, pet insurance. All of these policies can be continued after you retire. You just have to contact the administrator and let them know that you want to be direct billed for those policies. Your employee life insurance and your employee accident insurance will end, but you're given the option to port or convert those policies from a group policy under the company into an individual policy within 30 to 60 days after you retire. The pro about the life insurance is it doesn't require a physical exam. So if you're older or you're having medical issues, you're not going to have to answer those kind of questions. And in order to qualify, you're just going to have to pay a lot more. And that's the con. It does become quite a bit more expensive when you go from the group policy under AA to the individual policy. You would contact MetLife for the life insurance or Lina for the AD&D and the voluntary personal accident insurance if you're interested. Your long-term and short-term disability coverage will end, but if you're out receiving long-term or short-term disability, those benefits can continue as long as you're still disabled per the provisions of those plans. All right, dental insurance. Yikes. It's getting a little bit better, but for a long time, it was like nobody wanted to look after your teeth once you retire. It's crazy. MetLife does offer retiree dental insurance through the company. It's a zip code rated and it's high dollar and low benefits. So not too many people take it. The AA Credit Union has a dental club through Benefit Services of America, and it's not really an insurance policy. It's just one of those discount networks. If you sign up and go to one of the doctors in the network, you get a discounted rate, and a lot of people do that. I think Costco offers something similar that a lot of people sign up for. Another option, you can go to a dental school and be a guinea pig. Some people are up for that, some people aren't. But there is a way and a website there that we have available if you want to look into that. Another thing people do is usually COBRA their dental as long as possible. So even if you're Medicare eligible, you can still continue your dental and vision insurance through COBRA for 18 months and get everything done that you need to do in terms of dental. And there are better options offered by Medicare and under the Part C Medicare Advantage plans as well. So it is getting better. All right, flex spending. We did have a question about this earlier. When you retire, this is your one opportunity to take advantage of your flex spending plan. So you put in an amount for the entire year at the beginning of the year, and you can use that whole amount in the first month or two. And if you were working the whole year, you would gradually make deposits into the flex spending account, and you would end up paying it all back. But you get the benefits of it being, tax-free money, which is great. When you retire, you can retire before the end of the year and you don't have to pay it back. So you use it, they lose it. AA has to just eat the difference. So if you're retiring 2 months into the year, you put in $1,000 a month. I don't think you can put in that much, whatever, but $100 a month, $1,200, then you use it all in January, you retire in March, you've only made 3 deposits and the company has to eat the rest, and you were entitled to use the whole amount. So that's a good thing you can take advantage of, trying to maximize your flex spending and not have to make all the deposits before you retire. What was the question we had about that? While we're talking about flex spending, I thought maybe we could answer it now.
It was, what happens to your flexible spending account when you retire in the middle of the year?
Okay, so basically, if you use it all before you leave, you don't have to pay the rest of the deductions. If you haven't used it all, then you would have to COBRA the flex spending, but you would lose the benefit of it being tax-free. So we always recommend that you use it all before you retire, if possible. All right, Patrick, you have a few more words about what people need to think about if they're considering retirement.
Yeah, well, how do you do this? I mean, there's all these moving pieces, but honestly, it's nothing you can't handle. What do you need to do before you leave? Start a list, okay? There's a great checklist starting on page 37 of the APFA Retirement Package. Good slide. And you'll add your individual stuff to that as well. So you start a list. How do you do a list? How long have you been to CQ? You do a list, one task, a step at a time, in order, just like that plan emergency checklist. I like to think of it as a planned departure checklist, and it will work wonders in you being able to control all of these moving pieces.
You'll feel so organized.
You will. And having aspired most of my life to be organized, it's a wonderful thing when it actually happens. The other thing I want to point out is you've never retired before. So don't assume you should know it all. You shouldn't. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because that's why all of these resources are out there, is to give you the information you need to be in control of your retirement. But you know what? You've been doing this flight attending for how long? You look at an airplane full of 298 people and you just get to it, because you know one task, one step at a time, in order. And you know what that means? That means you've got this. You're prepared. You're ready. Let's go. Good slide. Questions?
All right. I'm over 65 years old and I've been covered by American's healthcare plans. What's the procedure for proving to Medicare that I have been continuously covered so as to avoid any penalties for not signing up at age 65?
So we did cover that in the presentation. It's that Medicare employment verification form, and I think Patrick's going back to it now. Here's what it looks like. So you get that from the Medicare.gov website, and you print it up and you actually fax it into the company. That's the best and most effective way to do it. And we have the fax number in the back of our retirement packet. And then they're going to snail mail it back to you. And then when you get that, you take that and the application for Medicare Part B to your local Social Security office, and they'll see that you've had creditable coverage through your employer, and they won't assess you any late enrollment penalties.
You know, every time I see that, I have echoes of that family leave form where I have to fill out the top and someone else fills out the bottom. I think it works that same way.
Works the same way, but it's much simpler and easier. But we usually recommend, just because you want to get this form, and sometimes American Airlines is a little slow about sending it back. So 60 days out from your retirement date is a sort of a good rule of thumb on our checklist about when to send this form into the company. That gives them a month to get it back to you, and then you have a whole month to talk to your Medicare advisor and get on a plan and everything before you actually retire.
What's the difference between signing up for Medicare Part B, D, and a supplemental or getting an Advantage plan? I have A, but have to get the other ones. Thank you.
Okay. There's two Medicares. There's the classic Medicare, A, B, D, and sup. So it's got 4 parts to it. Or you can say, you know what, that's too complicated. I'm going to buy the package. And that's what I like to think of a supplement as a package. And it gets a little confusing because, you know, sometimes people call that Medigap plan a supplement. But when we talk about the
You mean the Advantage?
The Advantage plans,
Yeah.
yes. So you're going to buy the Advantage plan and they're going to roll all of that in there. And depending on the plan, sometimes they separate out the premiums, say, no, you have to pay this part B and then this part of the Advantage plan. Sometimes they quote you one price and they pay your part B for you. And it's like Kim said, it may be a great deal or it may not. It depends on whether or not your vendors are in that HMO plan and whether or not you can deal with an HMO.
If you have any money left in an HSA, does AAL pay that out at retirement?
No. What AAL does is they let you take that debit card that you have attached to your HSA with you, and until you've exhausted that account, you can use it to pay for your medical expenses.
Do you have any advice or thoughts for flight attendants who may consider going expat or even changing or renouncing U.S. citizenship?
A lot of countries have different medical plans than the U.S. has for our old people. And you may find that the medical plan in, I don't know, France or someplace might work better for you. And if you are able to be eligible for it, and each country has its own eligibility requirements. So for instance, I believe it is Canada will let you into the Canadian healthcare system for a ridiculous amount. It's like $112 a month or something. And you're into the assuming you are a legal resident. Yeah, that's slipping under the wire in North Dakota to get into Canada ain't gonna get you there. But
most places you'll have to
be a legal resident.
Sort of, residency there. So, and a lot of people find it's a good idea to keep at least a minimal level of Medicare coverage for when they come back to the States, because a lot of those foreign, if you're in a foreign country and you're covered under their government health plan, it may not carry over if you're visiting the US. And I've heard a few stories about people who come back for, a visit to the US and they haven't kept any kind of coverage here, and then they get a big bill. So it's good to have Medicare as a backup for when you're in the US. And there are some, if you're just not planning to reside in another country, but you're just planning on doing a lot of traveling, there may be 1 or 2 of those Medigap or the Medicare supplement plans that do cover you while you're in another country. So that's something, again, to talk to a Medicare advisor about.
All right, last question. They first preface it with, we appreciate you.
Oh,
we appreciate you for being on as well. Thank you. Is Jill Frank still offering private retirement consulting services?
Yes, she is. And I have her number. If anyone's interested in consulting with her, I will be happy to give you her number.
Thank you for that. Well, that concludes our July virtual retirement seminar. Thank you all for being on today. As a reminder, this will go out via hotline after this, so if you need a refresh on any of the information we went over today, feel free to watch it again. Again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and visit the APFA website, the retirement page, and wish you the best on your journey to retirement. Thank you again for being on today. Any parting thoughts before we end?
You've got it. Let's do it. And don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Please ask questions, and thanks for joining.
All right, fly safely. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.